The Chronicles of a Wannabe Artist. Chapter 4. My art class hopping. By the age of 10, I never had a proper drawing class until we came back to Tehran. My mom found a drawing teacher and put me in her class. She was her best friend's sister and she lived close to us. That was my official first drawing class. She taught me about sketching and coloring in a more beautiful but structural way. And she also had levels, something that I've never seen before. So first it was just pencil drawing and learning how to draw something in front of you. Then came rendering, then pencil sketching and coloring it with colored pencil, then sketching and coloring with pastel. Not the oily ones, I had those, I didn't really like them, but the ones that were soft and easy to blend, I wanted to get to that level so bad. I finished 2 big colored pencil drawing, and right before the pastel drawing, my teacher moved from there, and I never learned how to color with pastel. Even though my dad bought me some pastel later, I enjoyed them, but I never learned how to properly use them. I was heartbroken when my teacher left, so my parents immediately put me in another class. This class was big, and since I was good at drawing, they took me out of the kids' table very soon, where they were using pasta pieces and beans to create a drawing, and they put me on the teenagers' table, where there were 16 and 17 girls and boys that they wouldn't even glance at me. They were amazing artists though, and at this time I started thinking, is this what I want to become? Nobody was using pastel, so sad, but some were using watercolor as the advanced level, which I didn't get attracted to since it felt messy and random. So my practice in this class was to choose an object from a circle, and I had to draw and render it without any lines. Okay, so I need to remind you, I was 11 back then, and this was the most boring thing I've ever had to do for drawing. I had to put in 4 hours just to draw an egg. I wanted to draw princesses and horses, but this? I was very sad and couldn't understand my place in that class. Though my parents thought this was an advanced and good class for me to become the Michelangelo they thought I should become. I kept thinking about that specific memory because I know they were trying to teach fundamental skills for drawing, but also nobody paid attention to what I wanted to draw and my style in drawing. There was no past, no future for what I was doing, and everybody around me thought the future of an artist was just painting and drawing something pretty. I had no knowledge of character design or animation or illustration. I was not dumb. The time was no internet time, and I was really alone in my world. This is also the time that I got to watch all the animations. I watched Cinderella, The Little Mermaid, Thumbelina, and Hercules. My new character to draw was Meg, and I drew so many Megs. I drew 101 Dalmatian dogs. I drew every character that I could draw. And the best thing that I came up with was that I'm a good cop here. People would ask me to draw, but I would decline because I felt there were nothing special. After the big boring class, I was introduced to a new teacher who worked with figures. This is when I started to actually draw people. My main medium was a brush and a blank ink. My general practice was to draw my classmates in different poses very quickly. I was there for a year, and I think I drew more than a couple thousand poses. I became more confident, my drawing accuracy started to change, and even though I would still draw princesses and horses, I got better at them. After I was done with the silhouette figure drawing class, with clothes on of course, I decided I have to try an oil painting class. I was 16 and I started to read some big books about art, and I felt maybe this is my gig. It was new and refreshing, but I felt I was struggling with big projects, and the hardest thing was to finish a freaking painting. Each painting will take me 4 weeks to finish, and the worst part was the other students. Their paintings were kinda bad. Their sketches were not accurate, so looking at their finished painting felt like looking at an unintentional cubism. So I stopped going to any class entirely and would just draw around my school books. I was 17 when finally something magical happened. My dad bought a gigantic book from France which I don't quite remember the name, but I knew it was 2006, and it was about Disney characters and history of cartoons and Walt Disney itself. I cannot tell you how I felt when I saw the book. I had a lot of mixed feelings. I was overwhelmed with so much information. That Cinderella was a character, and to create movement, there were a lot of drawings. But in order to get them right, figure drawing and still life was very necessary. That's why Walt sent all his animators to figure drawing classes. Sketching Simba was made with real animals in the studio. And the 3D world. Oh my god. I was introduced to a world that existed at least 50 years ago and nobody around me knew about it. I felt happy but also cheated on. Where was this my whole life? So this is how cartoons are made? Like, can I make them too? Can I fit anywhere in that field? I was so amazed. I couldn't let go of the book. I couldn't sleep. I couldn't eat. I flipped the pages over and over until I ruined the book. Chapter 5. My first artist pal. I need to mention this. I was super good at math. I would gain A's with no or letter effort, and this second talent was kinda an obstacle for my art. Also, I grew up in a family with doctors and engineers and no artists, so nobody really knew how to help me choose an art field for college. So my little brain, after doing some research, did a calculation. I thought if I studied a computer field, then I can get into 3D animation or game design program, and I could even leave the country for that purpose. With that in mind, I checked the computer engineering box and got accepted. I started to become an actual computer student, and after a while, I realized computer science was mostly coding, database, and compilers. I was very far from anything serious in the art department. I would still draw my characters and have fun, but never in a serious manner. I was no longer an artist or didn't consider myself as one. Until I met someone at a birthday party, my friend Negin. She was gorgeous and very classy and had red hair, so I had to say hi. I went and sat right next to her, and somehow I immediately started talking about art, animation, and drawing. And ladies and gentlemen, she was an art student. No one around me for a radius of 1,000 kilometers was an art student. And imagine my jaw dropping when she told me she's going to an animation school thing. It's not an actual school, but mostly a side field for art students, but the good thing is anyone can join. I was surprised and happy and finally saw hope for my art. With Negin's help, I enrolled into the classes. I started to faire connaissance with the basic animation for the next 2 years. We had a lot of classes and assignments that I enjoyed, but I also need to say I didn't really like the figure drawing classes because we were drawing people fully clothed and covered. But overall, I learned about animation and drawing, and it was a fascinating time. Even though I learned gesture drawing, animation in 2D and 3D, I still felt away from creating art, because now we had to make simple characters and animate them. But something more interesting came out of these classes. I learned about other artists, digital and traditional. We still had dial-up internet at that time, and finding artwork and artists on the internet was not easy. But the teachers were really resourceful. This is when I found out about Louis art. I would look at her art for hours, put them on my background, and print them. I wanted to become a digital artist. I also found Rodolphe Guénedin. He is the creator of the amazing Chell. He is a French artist and kinda invisible on the internet, but you can find his sketches on Pinterest. I started digital painting grâce à lui and all these other artists. But since I've never seen a tablet by that day, I tried using the mouse to draw. I was not very successful and didn't like the result, so I continued sketching on paper. But I never kept them because I felt they were practice and no good. It's like I didn't understand the nature of practice. I thought everything should come ready and perfect. But at the end of my computer studies, I succeeded in mixing the two fields together. I impressed one of my professors with a 3D modeling of a Persian ancient character, and she accepted that I create a character in Maya and use Unity to create a small game. I didn't fully finish the project, but it was the only time I did something in school that was very art related. This was a satisfying moment for someone who was working with codes for the past 5 years. But I didn't know that this would not be my last school project related to art and animation.